I am the academic recruiter for Aspen Dental that works primarily with the schools in Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. So we have a good group joining us here this evening. I have two doctors joining me tonight, Dr. Amy John and Dr. Sahar, and they're both UT Houston 2024 grads. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. We'll get to your introduction in just a moment. And then I also have Kim Wilkins with us. Many of you probably recognize her or you recognize the name. She's the talent acquisition manager that works with a few of our Texas schools and then some other students, throughout the area. So she'll be on for any recruiting questions that we have. But let's go ahead and kick things over to the doctors. Ladies, will you go ahead and take a minute and introduce yourselves, kind of let us know where you're at, what you're doing, and how this has gone so far.
Yeah, so my name's Amy. I just graduated in May from UTSD in Houston. For anyone that's from UTSD, I was in Green Clinic. Shout out Green Team, Dream Team. Definitely missing it, but I'm happy that this new chapter is going so well. So I'm from Sugarland. My parents are in Sugarland, but I've moved to Tulsa, where I work for one other doctor that's there. And so that's kind of been my post-grad experience, and it's been going pretty great.
Hi guys, I'm Sahar, also UTSD grad, and I was in blue. I saw some blue people logging in to the call tonight, so I was so excited when I saw y'all's names. I'm also in Tulsa at another Aspen that's like 10 minutes down the road from Amy's office. I also have a mentor doc at my place, and I've been there since the end of July, and it's going really, really well. So, we're happy to answer any questions y'all have.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies. I'll kick things off with a couple questions that I have kind of queued up for everybody. And then, like I said, for all of you students logging in, the chat feature is available. So go ahead and put in any questions that you may have. So, Docs, why don't you each tell us kind of what drew you to Aspen when you were being recruited throughout your D4 year? And what were those things that really kind of sold you? Like, okay, I really think I'm going to lean that direction and work for Aspen Dental.
Well, I think Aspen was the first recruiting event that we went to, and we got to meet Kim, and she was so wonderful and really hands-on, and willing to answer like every question that we had. And everything she was saying was sounding like kind of checking the list of like everything that I was looking for in an office. A lot of autonomy, a lot of mentorship. The compensation packages are really good at Aspen. And then I was just hearing like talking to older students that had graduated that are at other DSOs and just comparing the experiences. And working at Aspen just sounded like it was the most pleasant of those experiences. And I really can't speak to anywhere else, but working at Aspen has really been like everything that she's told us has panned out and it's been going really well. So
Yeah, I mean, similar things for me. I kind of knew like the top things that I really wanted and I wasn't willing to compromise on for like my first experience out of school. The first one was definitely somewhere where I felt like I could get a lot of experience and a lot of reps in. And sometimes when I'm from the suburbs, so sometimes when you're in a suburban place, sometimes because the health literacy is so high, there's not as much treatment to do. So I kind of was like, okay, where can I go where I can branch out a little bit more, get more reps in? I definitely was looking for somewhere that had really good benefits. Saving up right now and repaying my student loans is something that's like at the top of my priority list. So I wanted something that kind of fit well with me there. And then I also was looking for mentorship as well. I didn't feel confident enough to just be fully by myself. And so I was looking for more support in that sense. And then something that also offered a lot of like CE and further training so that I could continue developing, learning things that we didn't necessarily get right out of school. So I felt like Aspen fit all those things. Our whole friend group was kind of going to all the social events and kind of taking advantage of that time to just ask questions and kind of compare and contrast and see, also eat some really good food. And I think we just really vibed with Aspen and everything they were offering. They were super open with us, so we felt pretty comfortable with moving forward with that. So it feels like a good fit.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies. That free food is always a bonus. Yeah, if you guys haven't been to an event yet, we'll definitely have more after the holidays. So look out in your email or your text messages for our camera eye, and we'll make sure that we get you invited. But you each touched on some key important topics that a lot of students tend to ask this time of year as they're searching. So, um, do you guys want to talk about maybe the mentorship that you've received or that guidance that you've gotten over, the course of your first 4 or 5 months in the office and how that's helped you acclimate from being that student into a clinician?
Yeah, I can go. So, I'm with an older doctor. He's not much older. He's like 3 years older than me, which is nice because he's like someone that's fun and someone I can talk to. But he also has like a good bit of experience, and he's like a great leader in our office. And I remember in the very beginning when I just started working, they were doing a really good job of easing me in instead of like just throwing me and giving me like a full production column. I was able to kind of work my way in, and he and I would sit down after the new patient exams and kind of go over like the treatment plans and maybe why we treatment plan something some ways and other ways to do it. And we were just talking through a lot of cases, which I found to be extremely helpful. And even now that like I've ramped up a little bit more in my like schedule in my own column and my own production, if there is ever something that I'm getting stuck on, because obviously like right out of school you're like there's going to be things that you get stuck on. It's nice to have him there that I can just kind of grab him and ask him for help, and he'll step in or he'll kind of coach me through. And that's been like really really wonderful. I know in the even the first couple weeks he had to go to Chicago for something, and we had temps come in that were a little bit older, and even they were doing a really awesome job kind of like coaching me through some stuff. So I have never felt really alone or overwhelmed with anything really. Like there are some difficult things for sure, but it's really reassuring knowing that there is someone right next to me that can help me out.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. I'm definitely glad that I came onto an office that already has an older doctor there. My doc is quite a bit older than us. I think he graduated from dental school in 2010, so he has a ton of experience. And we really connected on a lot of things, both personally and professionally. So that was really nice just to have someone that I felt super comfortable with about, maybe facing some of my fears or things that I didn't have experience with. The thing that I really enjoyed is that with him, he's kind of like a super GP. Like he is not afraid of any procedures. And that's really an area that I also wanted to expand myself as well as try to do things that we weren't really getting to do in dental school. Because in dental school, every procedure is being vetted, right? The filling can't be too hard. The endo can't be too hard. The extraction can't be too hard. So you kind of get limited in a way, as you should, because we're still learning and getting our basic skills under. But I knew I wanted to branch out a little bit more. And thankfully, having that guidance there has been really helpful. And he's been super open with me about like, hey, like I'm gonna do this thing that you talked about wanting to do. You should assist me or shadow me on this so that you can see it. And then the minute the next one comes in the door, he'll be like, it's your turn. So it's been really nice just having that someone push me a little bit, but also create a safe environment for me to be doing things that maybe we haven't had the chance to do. One example would definitely be surgical extractions, because I know in dental school, we definitely were not doing that. And if things were even getting a little complicated, it would go straight to the resident or the attending would come in. But obviously in real life, people are in pain and there's just situations where you think it's going to be simple and it turns surgical, and just having someone there to just touch base with and be like, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to try this, or I'm going to, flap this or cut this, and just being able to move forward. It keeps the patient safe, but it's also a safe learning environment for me to be able to gain those skills. And it's also really nice. I feel like we align ethically as well. So that's been like really compatible, and also helps me grow too, to really ask myself questions about scenarios that maybe didn't see in dental school. So overall, it's been really awesome. And I definitely could not have imagined this like coming right out of school without his leadership. And lastly, I will say that coming right out of school and taking on a leadership role is scary. But I think that my MCD has done a really good job of letting me be in on a lot of the really tough conversations or redirecting slash disciplining, whatever type conversations, to kind of get an idea of what it looks like to manage the office and people underneath you, and just be really constructive, but also redirect people in the direction they need to go. So that's also been another huge privilege that I've really enjoyed, is just kind of seeing like how he handles so many different situations. I feel like it's really helped me grow, and sometimes he'll make me go in and say something. So that also makes me grow. So overall, good growth experience.
Awesome. We do have a question in the chat from Danielle. She says, other than support from doctors in the clinic, what other type of support have you received from Aspen as a company? And she notes, especially with the transition of getting licensed and training with the Aspen system. Can you gals touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, after we got like our onboarding process, it was like very structured. So Kim really walked us through a lot of that. She got us in touch with like our onboarding manager. I don't know his exact thing, but he was in charge of our onboarding, and he would touch base with us pretty regularly whenever we had like, okay, now it's time for you to do this. Now it's time for you to do this. This is the packet that you have to fill out. And so he was just kind of sending us all the information as we were needing to like fill everything in. Same thing with licensing, same thing with like getting our DEA stuff done, like anything that needed to be completed in terms of licensure or paperwork that otherwise we wouldn't really know. They're a good source of people that you who do know. And so we were always able to touch base with them. People at Aspen are very available, I've noticed. So like if one person is not able to get you the answer, you have 3 or 4 other people that you can get in touch with, and like you're going to get an answer pretty quickly, and that's been really, really helpful. Even as we were onboarding, like our first day of work, Michael, he's our territory director, and he came, he onboarded us and kind of walked us through um, the Aspen like EHR system, and even the first several weeks they kind of are really easing you into how everything is working. And there are really many levels. So there's your regional manager, you're in touch with them a lot. They're answering every single question that you have. You have your onboarding manager for that kind of stuff. You have hygiene support. They're coming in pretty regularly. And if you have any concerns or issues or even questions about how hygiene is flowing in your office, like they're there for that. And it's just like on every level, there is somebody that you can reach out to, and everyone is happy to answer and help questions.
Yeah, it helps a lot with the onboarding and licensing that they are kind of giving you a checklist, so then you know what you need to go do, because it differs by state and everyone in your class is kind of doing a different thing. So you kind of got to figure out which way you're trying to go. And also I thought the relocation help was really supportive as well. Just kind of touching base with them about where you're going, what you're doing. And also when you're interviewing or just flying out for the first time to check out the city and do apartment hunting and all that, they're also working with you on all that. So you're not just kind of free flying in the country, just doing random stuff. There's always someone that's like, hey, it's time for you to do this, and let's get you set up to do all that. So it's super helpful. And also our even our like VP of clinical support and all that, we're like tight with him, and he always tells us like, call me, text me. Same thing, like they have people that are really passionate and maybe specialized in certain things. For example, they have a denturist who you can reach out to with any problems, and he goes over a lot of stuff with you. So that's really nice, especially coming out of school, because you've done such a limited amount of prost. So just having those, resources there to be able to find out what needs to be done or how to get calibrated has been really helpful. And I appreciated that a lot.
There's also a gigantic online CE library. So I remember, I don't remember anymore what exactly it was that I was going to be doing the next day, but I hadn't had too much exposure at school with whatever that procedure was. And I was able to find it on their online CE library and watch a few videos, and it really helped. So that's another thing I really have appreciated.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Paige.
You're muted,
Thank
Paige.
you. Yep. We do have a couple questions here in the chat too, but one of them, Vanessa, I'll get back to you. But we do have one that is on the topic of what you guys are kind of talking about now, which is how about CE courses? Can you talk to us about how the Aspen policy works with that? So obviously you guys have been with us for a handful of months. It's not like you've been here years, so you haven't seen the full gamut, but can you speak a little bit more maybe about that online catalog and then the CEs that you can do or have done already up in Chicago at headquarters?
We started off with like my very first big CE that I've started is the implant CE. Aspen has like a really established way that they get all their doctors trained eventually to start placing implants. And it starts off with like online modules so that you really have like a solid foundational base understanding of extractions, surgical extractions, laying a flap, bone grafting, like every single thing that you need to understand before you can place the implant. Um, they have those online modules, and after that, that's kind of where I'm at right now. But after that, they take you to the hands-on portion in Chicago where you're placing the implants. They even have like an extraction academy if there's some that you can do beforehand if you're feeling like not so confident in your extractions, your suturing skills, all that. Like that's available to you. Like I mentioned, any one-off thing, I think it was on crown lengthening. Like I have no idea, but it was something random like that that I was curious about. Any topic like that, you can just search up. Even outside of the clinical stuff, the CE library has things about like management of people, management of resources, things like that as well that are not only clinical. Like you have access to things like that as well. Um, so that's been really helpful. But the implant one for sure, I know that's like everyone's like biggest question is about like when you can place implants and how. And Aspen kind of has a very prescribed way of how they get you to the point where you're actually ready to be doing that.
Yeah, their online library is really good. You really good can get in there and just Google something in the search bar and find videos, which is really nice because you want to brush up on things, especially when it's your first time doing it, like right after graduation. The implant course is with ITI, which is pretty apparently pretty globally famous. So it's a really legit course. You just have to find time to get through it, but it's really thorough, so it kind of gets you through everything. And there's also like support for implant placement as well, which we met when we went to Chicago. So it's like even when you start doing it, you also can reach out to them for help with planning, placement, like every little thing. So it's really nice. There's like they have a lot of infrastructure for that as well. My understanding that is that if you're in private practice, you're not only paying for the course, but you're also paying to close your production for that time to travel there to do it. And you're paying for your team to stay there. You're doing all that. So this is kind of nice because they're absorbing a lot of that. And so you just need to study, which is really nice, and focus on actually getting it done, which is feels like school. So that program feels very familiar. So it's really nice.
For sure. That's a great point that you bring up, Amy, is that much of the CE that Aspen offers, if it's through Aspen, is 100% free to our doctors and our clinicians. So um, it's a very robust, like we said, library. You have access to it 24/7. A lot of it you can do from the comfort of your office or your home when you're at home in the evening. And then we do have the courses in Chicago. We recently transitioned our headquarters from Syracuse, New York to Chicago a handful of years ago, not very long ago, but we have the oral care center there, which is where we do live patient implant training, the extraction course. So a lot of it is hands-on with our clinical support leaders right there alongside of you. I also oftentimes get a lot of questions, I'm sure Kim does too, is if you see CE elsewhere, can you go and do it? And the answer is absolutely yes. Like we're not going to limit you as to what you can or cannot do. Um, and is that paid for if it's provided by somebody else? That's a question for the owner that you maybe work under at Aspen or just Aspen as a whole. If we don't offer it, I'm told that sometimes we do pick up some of that cost. Maybe it's not the full cost of it. Sometimes it's we pick up a portion. But that's just a conversation to be had. But like they said, many of the topics that you may be looking for, we definitely offer. So thanks for touching on that. We have a great question from Vanessa. And I think everybody knows everybody's situation is a little bit different, but can the two of you talk about what your timeline was in your D4 year as to when you started looking for jobs, interviewing, receiving offers, and then ultimately making that decision?
We started looking pretty early, I have to say. Like, I think around this time last year, we were like kind of zeroing in on Aspen at this point, if I'm not mistaken. I think I like had my interview with Michael in January, I think, something like that. Like, I think it was like something like that. So, um, and I think that's when I went for my site visit, which is also really cool that we got to do. So like before you actually like sign your like letter of agreement that you're like ready to work at a certain office, they flew us out. We got to visit the clinic, the team, kind of talk to the doctors, see if you vibe. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You just kind of keep searching for an office that's a better fit. Luckily for us, I think it was a good fit wherever we went for our site visits. Um, but yeah, so that was really awesome. And I think because the all of the DSOs kind of started their little meet and greets in August, we had kind of started from that point informally talking to people, but it became, at least to me, pretty clear very quickly that I wanted to work for Aspen. And so then it just became a question of talking with Kim through like what is available, like which offices are available, and then what's being offered at each kind of place, and just narrowing that down until we landed at Tulsa. And then by January, I pretty much decided I was going to work here.
Yeah, we started bothering Kim like pretty early on, I think. A lot of people in our class were not, it was not even on their radar to start looking. Myself and our friend group, we were pretty type A. So we started pretty early because we wanted time to really think about it. I think, yeah, we had our interviews in December, site visits in January, and then time to really narrow things down and plan. It gives you time to think. I wanted time to also get my parents on board. I wanted to take time to think about it, pray about it, all that. So it gave me an ample amount of time to really, also process being done with dental school and like all that is, takes time. So yeah.
Those are great answers. Another question is, how did you know that the office you visited was a good fit? Or, and then what kinds of things did you look out for?
I think I had a really good feeling when I met the doctor. Granted, the guy that I met is actually not the same person that I'm working for now, or working with now, but the rest of the team, I also really loved. My regional manager, Macy, she's the same. She was really awesome. You just kind of know it's similar, I think, to when we were interviewing at different dental schools, and you went to go visit the school, and you, or at least I just kind of knew when I went to Houston that like this is a school that I want to go to. After you talk to the people, you just kind of get an understanding of what the culture is like at a certain place. And I think I just really liked what I was seeing. I felt very comfortable. No one felt like very stressed out, or like they hated their life. So like that was a good sign. Everyone just seemed really happy. And then I think researching around at the city itself, so like I wanted to make sure that I would like it in Tulsa. I had never lived in a mid-sized city before. So I really wanted to make sure that that would be a good fit because I didn't want to commit to something that I was going to end up hating. So I think keeping an open mind about moving away from Houston or moving away from a big city and just kind of researching and coming, visiting, exploring also really helped.
Yeah. I mean, prior to dental school, I was working as an assistant. So I kind of was familiar with like the scheduling and stuff. So I low-key was peeking at their schedule to see what the flow would be like, to see if they were getting like overly slammed. And then, like Sahar says, you can also sense the vibe of people the same way that you're sensing your dental school of how people really feel, how quickly are they working, do they have the time they need to do what they want to do. And then also the doctor that we had met, he ended up shifting somewhere else because he had some family stuff going on. But I mean, he had a good, like, some real talk with us and was like, this is what it is. This is how many people you're going to see. This is what you should expect. But you'll totally be at that speed by that time. So it was nice because he was only a couple of years older than me. So it was like we were able to really see eye to eye and he could still relate to how he felt coming out of school. So that was pretty nice. And then, yeah, same thing with like feeling the vibe of Tulsa in terms of like I wanted to live somewhere with a low cost of living, somewhere where I felt like as a single girl moving, feel safe and not, fighting for my life or anything. And that all felt like a good fit. So overall vibes were good. I felt spiritually, emotionally at peace. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So yeah.
You ladies are both talking up Tulsa pretty well. I think the city needs to cut you a check or get you on the hook for some social media or something. I appreciate that. We have another great question, and it is, what is your daily pace like? So, how do you structure your schedule? How many hygienists do you have in your office? Assistants do you work with? Those types of things. So, maybe a little bit of like the day in the life, but then how you each individually are, creating your schedule and what you're seeing and doing.
Our office is 7 to 5. And it's myself and one other doctor. We have 3 assistants, 2 hygienists, and we're a pretty busy office. I don't think that all the offices are as busy as ours, but it's been really nice because I knew for myself I didn't want to go somewhere where I would just be like twiddling my thumbs all day. I really wanted right out of school to be able to kind of hit the ground running and like absorb as much as I could into my brain and really learn. Because I think that when you're a new grad, um, the mentor doc is like actually really eager to train you. There's something about like someone that's like fresh, that like you really want to help them out. Versus I knew that if I was like 5 years down the line, maybe I'll be by myself and I wouldn't want to see something for the first time then. So like I really want to just see as much as I can now. So having a busy office has been really great. In the beginning, I didn't have my own column. Like I mentioned, I was mostly shadowing, seeing things here and there. And then as I was comfortable, they opened up a production column for me and they really like dragged down my appointments. So like for a crown prep, they gave me like way more time than I needed. They were like checking in with me also of like, how much time do you want for this? How much time do you want for this? And it was like based on whatever I said is how they scheduled it, which was also really nice. Because I didn't feel like I had to rush to get anything done. And now that I'm a little bit more settled, we're seeing about like maybe 8 to 10 new patients a day. And then in my production column, it just depends on the day, but maybe 5 patients, something 5, 6 patients in production, something like that. It really just depends on the day. Um, but it's manageable. It's busy, but it's good. It just kind of keeps you on your feet and you're just kind of doing something all the time instead of like scrolling on Twitter, which I didn't want to do. So
Yeah, I'd say the pace is good. It's a good happy medium. Our office is 7:30 a.m. to 5:30, so we start a little bit later, which is nice. I have my director has stuff in his column, I have stuff in my column, and then the biggest thing I think coming out of dental school that you have to get used to is having new patients all day. There's going to be a ton, and you get really good at it. It's intimidating at first because on the ball, you need to come up with what you need to do and what to say, and you have to kind of hit your stride and come up with your routine. But once you get used to it, it's like you learn how to do your procedure and reach like the perfect stopping point. You go do an exam, come back, or do a hygiene check. And so that's another area that I wanted to grow in as well, is like multitasking. Because in dental school, you're having like 4 hours to do one thing. So I knew that I needed to improve in that. And I feel like that's been pretty nice. I do think that in the beginning they were making my appointments longer because I was taking longer. And then once I sped up, I'd tell them like, hey, you can shrink it down. And then it was kind of matching where I am at. And, God willing, I get faster, hopefully in the future. And then I would communicate that. It's really nice having an office manager like just the next door over to tell them like, hey, make my whatever longer, or I want to learn how to do this thing. I'm starting to do it. I'm going to need longer. For example, like molar endo. And so they just kind of stretch it out. So that's pretty nice. Yeah. The only thing is just remembering to balance all the exams and the hygiene checks, but that's at anywhere that you're going to go for sure. And I will say that the good thing about Aspen is they seem to have a lot of new patients, which means you always have stuff to do, because that's where, the bulk of your work is coming from, is getting in new people who have new treatment plans, who want to get going on treatment. So it's really nice because it helps the days fly by faster when you have stuff to do, people to talk to, new patients to meet. So overall, it's pretty fun, I will say.
I love that. And I think it's important to remember, and these gals touched on it, is everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different. So these two happen to be in the Tulsa market, probably have somewhat similar offices, but depending on where you go, it totally could range. So those are great questions to ask in the interview process as you talk to Kim, as you talk to myself. If you're like, I want to go to a place where I see the most amount of patients a day, then let us know that and we can help narrow that down. Or you can say, I need to go somewhere where I'm going to have a mentor that's kind of literally going to hold my hand for the first 3, 4, 5 months. We can find that option for you too. So, I think being transparent and being vulnerable with us recruiters is super helpful because we're your biggest advocate through this process. So we have a great question here. We have a few great questions. We'll get to them all. Do you gals feel like you could work at any Aspen office, or are they all pretty different? And if they are different, what are some differences and similarities that in y'all's and then your friends' experiences as well?
Um, I went and covered at another Aspen office one time, and the pace was different because it was kind of a little farther out of Tulsa, so we weren't in the city. It was like kind of a smaller suburb. And so I noticed that the pace was very different. But one thing is that all the Aspens, at least from talking to my friends in my own experience, they kind of generally are structured the same way where like the hygienist is going in and a new patient exam, they're doing their hygiene assessment, they let you know what they think, you go in, you're doing your exam, your treatment plan, and then the office manager is kind of being like looped in, and then they consult the patient on, hey, this is what the team thinks you need. This is how much it's going to cost. Let's get into the money part of it. And then by then we're out of there. And I think that that's generally similar through all the Aspens. I think if there's like one big difference, it's going to be the pace. Other than that, like they all have like all the Aspens, as far as I know, have like an in-house lab. So like whenever you're doing denture steps, like you have a lab tech in the back there that is available and there to kind of handle all of that. I think that's similar through all of them. You know, the assistants are doing the FMSs, your hygienists are doing their evaluation and treatment. Like I don't think any of us, at least that I know of, we're not doing our own hygiene at any point. That's what the hygienists are there for. I know that varies. Some people, some of our friends in private practice are doing their own prophies and stuff. So that's something that's a little bit different. But other than that, I think all the Aspen offices do have some similar structure to them.
Yeah, I've worked at a few of them now pretty frequently, been like covering at different places. I personally really enjoy it because I'm getting to like meet more people, see more things, and just be in a different part of town and like check out other stuff. I do agree that the flow is basically the same, and that's something that's super nice about Aspen versus being in school, because in school you are the treatment plan coordinator, you are doing the accounting, you are doing perio, you are doing the cleaning, like so no matter where I'm at in the 3 or 4 offices that I've covered, I'm still just doing the same thing. It's just, I would say the only adjustment is maybe a different number of assistants. Like at my office right now, we only have 2. So we're booking it to get everything done. But at Woodland Hills, they have 4. At Owasso, they have 3. And they're all different ages and experiences. So it kind of differs. But aside from that, I would say it's pretty much the same. And it seems like our friends are generally having the same experience. Shout out Tyler from UT El Paso for the question, buddy. But yeah, it's overall super fun.
I love that. We have another great question from Carla. You both did site visits throughout your, time of narrowing down your search with Aspen. Is there anything you wish you would have asked when on your site visit?
Mm,
Think I asked everything I wanted to ask because I'm always yapping. And I think the day that I came, there was also like a huge ice storm. So there weren't very many patients. So there was a lot of time for me to just sit and talk to. I was actually with the where Amy's working right now, that mentor doc. I was in his office for a really long time during my site visit day. And so we were chatting a lot, and he was pretty much answering like any question that would pop into my brain. And then I got a chance to speak with Macy as well, the regional manager, because we had like nothing but downtime really. And so, I made sure to ask all the standard questions that I know all of you guys are probably thinking about when it comes to like autonomy and treatment planning, um, all of the like lab fees, all those types of like things. I asked, and they were happy to answer, and they were also just really like happy to expound on anything, and they are thinking of things that I was not even thinking of at the time, and just going ahead and just telling me exactly what to expect. And so I felt like I walked out of there pretty clear visioned on what to be expected.
yeah, I don't know that I was smart enough to think of anything to ask, but I don't think that there's been anything that has caught us by surprise or that's been unpleasant or anything. I mean, it's all regular parts of dentistry. So, nothing comes to mind for me.
Mhm.
Awesome. I'll elaborate on that really quickly. I think Kim and I get this question a lot because we often, say, think of a couple questions or things that you want to, get answered while you're there. Um, Obviously, a lot of things come clinically to your mind as far as like what you guys were just talking about. But we're an open book, and I truly mean that. Ask about the profit and loss statements. If you want to see what the previous associate was making, off of the bonus structure, like they can go in and dig in and get that. If you want to see the schedule of that week, of that day, if you want to go back and look at a schedule, if you want to look at a schedule that's set for a month in advance, so that way like this is how they plan it out, or they're not just making a schedule look pretty for me today because I'm here. Like, ask those questions. Office manager, regional manager, territory director, even the doctors in the office would be happy. Um, I also often tell students to think of questions for the office manager. Think of questions for the hygienist, the DAs. They're gonna be your family away from home. They always say you work with your coworkers more than you hang out with your family. And so make sure that is a comfortable fit for that as well. We did get another question about CE ladies, and it's more so just again, um, I don't think the student was maybe logged in at the beginning, but can you just very briefly talk about what CE courses are maybe offered at Aspen? And then for the student that asked, we will send out an email tomorrow morning that has a whole list kind of what can be offered or what you can find. Can you just touch on that again, Amy or Sahar?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the implant course that they have is basically an online module that has videos that you watch and you can take notes. And then after that, you're doing quizzes. And then once you complete all that, they bring you out to Chicago to learn more and to actually start placing implants at their implant center. So that's probably, I think, one of the coolest things that Aspen has. They also have like basically a Rolodex or a compounded system of like a search engine where you can just type in what you're looking for and then you can click on anything you want and watch whatever you want for whatever you have coming up. I think the second part of the question about how did you expand on your scope of difficult procedures, I mean, unlike dental school, not everything's being screened. Like when it comes for the exam, you're looking at it and saying, do I want to try to do this or not? And then if you have a good mentor doc, you're able to, within the safety of having that support, decide if you want to do it and branch into doing more things that maybe you weren't able to do in dental school, like endo, veneer, surgical extractions, things like that. So yeah, hopefully that summarizes everything.
Perfect, thank you. And like we said, we have that big library of CE. We have a link that Kim and I can send out. You can have a student login up until you become a clinician at Aspen. It'll give you a brief snippet, so you are able to do some of it, not all of it, but take a look at that. We'll get that to you guys tomorrow. Another question here is, have you seen an increasing trend in production since since you both have become faster?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the less time you need per procedure, the more patients you can fit into your day. And so then the production of the office goes up. But I don't think that that's been ever something that's been pressurized onto us or anything. Like, it's not like the office manager is like, hey, you didn't hit your production numbers for the day. There is no such thing as like production numbers for the day. You're just treating patients. And so that's been really nice.
It kind of feels natural because once you start doing exams, you're treatment planning things, and then those people are coming onto your column or they want to do it with you because you discussed it with them. So it just feels natural.
Awesome, great answers. No quotas, none of that stuff. So clinical autonomy is truly with you guys. We have a question for Amy. Do you work at one location or do you rotate between multiple locations during the week?
So I work out of Tulsa Hills, which is like a suburb of Tulsa, regularly, and then they'll let me know in advance, like, hey, a doctor from, this suburb or that suburb of Tulsa is going to be out on this day. Can you cover? Or we're sending them to the implant course. Can you cover? Or, such and such, they need extra, whatever. And so I've been to a couple of locations doing that, but they let me know pretty far in advance. And they also allow me to go in and look at the schedule and be like, hey, is there anything that, or I'll let them know like, hey, I don't do this or that. And then they'll weed it out and be like, hey, let's reschedule them to when maybe an older doctor's there. So, for example, like third molar extractions on partially impacted teeth, I'm like, call that person and tell them I will not be able to do it that day. So, but yeah, they let you know in advance, and you can look ahead at the schedule. So it's not that scary.
That's a great answer. So, for those that are inquiring, most of our positions are full-time positions that are at one office specifically. Just like the two of these gals, we do have float positions, and those are predetermined floats where you are kind of like a floating doctor within a suburb. Dr. John, what she's saying is she has agreed that, yep, if they ask, because somebody's, taking PTO or somebody is going to a course in Chicago, it sounds like she's agreed to go ahead and do that. At the end of the day, she has the right to say no, but obviously she knows it's for the betterment of the team, if she does that. So
Well, and
kudos
she
to
touched
you,
on it
Doc.
earlier too, that it builds her pipeline and her resources as well. So whenever she's going to those other offices, she's not only getting to work on different patients, but she's working with different team members that she can learn something from, or she's working and seeing a different way that the office is flowing together. Maybe those dental assistants do something that her office doesn't, and she gets to take it back. So there's different benefits from it as well, going and covering for another office.
Yeah, it also gives
Absolutely.
me a chance to pretend to fly solo for a couple of days to just see what I'll do and see what I'll be like. And then, yeah, I like to yap, so meeting new people. And then they also they're asking me over text, like, hey, are you comfortable with doing this? And then they will also ask my boss, my manager, and then I'll also ask them. So, like, there's nothing weird, like, no bad blood or anything. I'm just like, hey, can I go? And they're like, yeah, sure, girl, just go. So, yeah.
I love it. Um, a question that we haven't had yet is, can you guys talk about what the hours look like at Aspen? So what are your typical weeks? How much, and then it looks like they're also asking about PTO and maybe how easy it is to take time off. And then have you found a good work-life balance so far? So,
So we work, I think the hours differ per office. Like we kind of mentioned, I'm 7 to 5, Amy 7:30 to 5:30. I haven't had to work any Saturdays so far, so it's just Monday through Friday. And our Fridays are half days, so we get out at 12 o'clock on Fridays, which is really, really nice. It really allows us a lot of flexibility. We've been traveling a lot on the weekends. It's really nice because you can just book the afternoon flight out on a Friday. PTO I think kicks in after 90 days of working. And I think that's pretty standard across places. And I think it's like 2 to 2.5 weeks, something like that. It's like a lot of time. And then 4-ish days or something like that of paid sick leave as well. I haven't really taken too much. Like my first time that I'm going to be taking real time off during the week is around Thanksgiving. So I haven't had too much experience with the PTO stuff, but it's available and it's there. And usually it's pretty easy. You just put it on like there's an app, and you just go in there and you say, I'm going to be out on these days. And you just let them know ahead of time, like 2 weeks ahead of time, I think is the policy. And then it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's pretty chill. You just put it in on the thing and it lets them know that you're asking for it. I will say that the half day on Friday, I don't know if every office everywhere has it, but that is enabling all my dreams to come true. Like literally this Friday, I did two root canals in an hour. Sahar picked me up out of the back door and then we flew to Virginia to see our friends. So those half days are enabling all my travel dreams and it's been awesome. So it's pretty nice. And if I ever need to take off or something, having a mentor that can be like, hey, I need to go to the doctor or hey, I need to visit my parents or whatever is a cool. And they're like, yeah, I'll cover it. And so it's just really nice just having that, just the support and the camaraderie to be able to take off if I need to.
You're muted
I'm
again.
muted again. I'll learn eventually, guys. Um, I think that's one of the biggest things that new grads coming out of college or dental school say when they join Aspen is how clutch half day Fridays are. That is across the board at Aspen. I think on occasion a few offices will work a full day Friday, but it's because maybe they gave them a half day on Wednesday for something that was going on in the community or whatever. But half day Fridays are really key, and I know so many associates, new grads that are traveling quite frequently. So I'm glad you ladies are um, taking us up on the half days on Fridays. Okay, so we've talked about hours. It sounds like you have a good work-life balance and you've been able to balance that. I think one thing, if you guys can touch on it a little bit, is because we're a DSO, it is a large support organization where you guys can truly focus on the clinical side of dentistry. You're not having to take home payroll at the end of the evening. You're not having to work with insurance companies. We have a whole support team that, does that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think in other lines of dentistry, depending on which way they go, whether it's private or whatnot, you are going to end up taking some of that home. Where have you guys found that you've had to take work home after 5:30?
Oh, it's so nice. Like you do your notes, you finish your work, you do your notes, and then you come home. And like even during the day, like Paige mentioned, there's a person, she's in charge of getting all the insurance verified. She's in charge of making sure that your crowns are going to be there the day that the patient is going to be there and it'll all be ready. You have the lab tech in the back. She's handling remaking dentures, and you're just kind of overseeing that process. If like the other day the internet went out, somebody was handling that. You're not really handling too much outside of your clinical responsibilities. The leadership will sometimes like rope you in on if there are things like that they're concerned about. For example, like, oh, like we're having issues with like this DA is coming in late every single day. We're going to talk to her. Do you guys want to sit in on that? So it's more of like an optional kind of thing of like, if you want to be involved in these kinds of discussions, then you have the option to be. But you don't necessarily need to be worried about too much outside of like going to work and doing a good job for like the patients clinically. Somebody is handling all the other nonsense that you don't want to deal with. So it's really nice.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's almost too nice. Like I just get to focus on the cool stuff I want to do, and my mentor handles all the bad stuff. And he lets me like, he's like, "Do you want to sit in with me on this discussion?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." So like he lets me, do what I want to do, which is really nice. So you get to kind of witness some of what goes into being a main clinical director without actually having to do it. And maybe someday ramp up to that. But I also, like I mentioned, did work as a DA before dental school, and I have a lot of family members that are in dentistry as well, and I know like firsthand how much work it is. And also in dental school, you're doing every single one of those positions that they have hired for in Aspen, so it's really nice to just focus on being good at the thing you want to be good at, and it's just great. So I really
Yeah,
like
one thing that I liked that we've kind of been dealing with at our office that is different than what assuming private practice would be is like when it comes to needing to hire DAs, we had one that went out on maternity leave, and so we're trying to find a replacement. And instead of us having to deal with any of that, our regional manager has been like talking to a recruiter. They're bringing people in, and me and the other doc just sit in on those interviews, and we're able to be like, yes, we like her, or no, bring in the next person. And so that's really nice because there's like little headaches like that um, outside is like your problem. And here it's just something that you are not too wrapped up in, which is nice. It frees up your brain space for other things.
Yeah, same thing with the lab as well. Just every little thing about having the lab is awesome. And I think like dentures were a weak point for me because I only did the arches I needed to graduate, and they were all handpicked to be really straightforward. But having them there to be like, hello, how does this look? Does this good? What will happen if I turn this into you? And them being like, redo this, or this is what will happen, or this is what we need to do. And troubleshooting everything has really helped me grow in that area. So that's another really great asset that you just can walk back there and be like, what's up? And then get the help you need. So works out really well.
Perfect. I think Dr. Amy just talked on a really great topic. If you are just kind of starting this process with Aspen, every single one of our offices has an in-house lab with a lab technician. So a lot of that stuff that you've had to deal with in dental school is no longer kind of on your plate. You have someone to show you the ropes there. So we have another great question. As an associate with Aspen, what do lab fees look like?
I don't know. I don't know. It's not on us. We just have like these labs. They kind of give us a list of like these are our preferred labs. You don't have to work with them if you don't want to. We do. And then I don't know. We send it to the lab and it comes back done. I really don't know much more beyond that.
You want me to speak on it, girls?
Go for it.
Okay, so we have 8 labs that we're partnered with that we get the fastest turnaround and we get the biggest discount with them. But the lab fees come out of the cost of the office. The doctors are not covering them. Now, if you do go outside of those preferred labs, that's whenever you cover that cost because we have insurance and we have contracts and stuff like that with these labs. That's why we use them because I can call up Brandon Humphrey and be like, hey, my crown is not back on time. Can you find out what's going on with it? Or they're requesting another impression and I just sent one out yesterday. Can you find out what's going on? And he's going to be able to get you an answer within like 2 hours and find out what's going on with that. And it's going to be the quickest turnaround and they're going to get that back to you as soon as possible. But again, those lab fees are coming out of the cost of the office. The doctors are not forking out anything for those lab fees.
Awesome. And much of that is stuff that you'll get acquainted with over the course of your first year. Obviously, some get acquainted more quickly, and some it takes a little bit longer. But that's just kind of the way of the office and how things work out. If you have any more questions, we do have about 7 minutes left. I'll wait for those to come in case there is any others. But ladies, before we started this call, we talked a little bit about your first trip to Chicago, where headquarters is. And so for the students on this call, we have what's called the new doctor journey. Every new grad that signs with Aspen will go through that new doctor journey, even if you're not a new grad and you're just starting off with it. We have seasoned dentists that are going through it, but it's just kind of our version of getting you acquainted with Aspen and helping you hone those skills to become a better clinician, a better leader within your office. So, ladies, a part of, or I guess a part of that journey is there's 2 1-week trips to Chicago, to our headquarters out in the West Loop. And there's CE attached with it, lots of networking. You get to meet our clinical leaders. But if you ladies want to talk or touch on that first trip and how that went, and maybe what you took out of it that you maybe didn't think you were going to take out of it that has really helped you, I think that's a really cool turning point that Aspen offers that some of our competitors don't.
The Chicago trip was awesome. They have one at the 1 month mark and then again at the 6 month mark. And so we just did our 1 month one and it was a week long and we got to stay in the West Loop. Their headquarters are so beautiful. It's like I cannot believe that it's like in the skyline of Chicago almost is what it feels like. It's like this huge, beautiful building. And you go there and speak with a lot of the VP of clinical support, VP of dentures, whatever their official titles are, but all the people that are kind of in charge of each of their domains. And they kind of walk you through whatever CE. So like denture steps, troubleshooting dentures, how to treatment plan, how to speak to patients. Like at school, I notice like you're offering an extraction for $19 or whatever. Like patients are gonna like do whatever you're telling them to do as part of the treatment plan because it's the best that they can like money wise. In the real world, you kind of have to learn how to speak to patients, how to explain a treatment plan, how to get them to understand the value of your treatment. All of these things are really important and maybe skills that you are still working in progress. And so the Chicago trip really helped with that. We met a lot of really awesome other dentists kind of starting off on their journey. They're the same ones we'll be seeing again at the 6 month mark. I think the first month we had the first couple of weeks, there were some like online Zoom type of things where we were with our same cohort of people. And we had some classes then too. That was really awesome. So it feels like you have like a little touchstone there with the same group of people continuously like with you throughout the journey and you're learning a lot of really important, valuable skills. I'm excited to go back for the 6 month. I'm already like looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was super fun. I think that one of my biggest fears coming out of school was like not being calibrated. So I appreciated that we had all these sessions that you sit in on to kind of get calibrated on the soft skills and the hard skills of dentistry. So I felt like that was really nice. And then just meeting so many fellow new grads from around the country and talking to them, getting to know them, but then also meeting dentists that are older and have more experience or from different countries or whatever, and just meeting a lot of people was super fun. And then we also had time to, like, I had time to visit my family friends and things in Chicago. We had time to eat out to the restaurants we wanted to explore and just like, we just had a great time. So it was 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I love when they send us up to Chicago too. we have a couple people on this call actually that will be going to our first We Got You. I believe you gals went to We Got You last year as well. They'll be doing that this weekend. So they'll be able to get a very quick, brief look at headquarters, which will be fun. Let's see here. I don't see any more questions. I guess one thing that we touched on very, very briefly, but um, as you guys were going through the process of, you know, negotiating your offers and things like that, what are some things that you would recommend students look for in an offer, ask for, or look for in a contract? Maybe some red flags, green flags, or like don't be afraid to ask for a relocation or something like that. If you guys have any tips and tricks on that, we'll end on that one tonight.
We got relocation as part of our offer is very like whatever, it's a generous amount. And they have really great options as far as getting your student loans repaid, retention bonuses. If you don't have student loans, they offer like that same amount as a retention bonus. We have a daily guarantee that is like in perpetuity. I know at a lot of places the daily guarantee runs out at like the 30-day mark or the 60-day mark. Ours does not run out, which is really nice. So we're never really worried about. That's also why we're not so stressed out about how much we're producing, because it's like it doesn't really matter or has no really bearing on how much we're getting paid, which also helps toe like some ethical situations. You never want to get caught up in like treatment planning against what is best for the patient, because now you're stressed out about hitting your production needs or production quotas or whatever is going on at other places. So having a daily guarantee that doesn't run out, that's a good daily guarantee, has also been nice. And as you guys know, like being in a smaller city maybe has its advantages as well, because you're getting paid a little bit better than if you were to stay in Houston, where there's a million and one dentists at every single corner, and it's just harder to get paid well. I think those are some of the big things, Amy.
Yeah, I think that because we're in a smaller city, I think our daily guarantee is a lot higher than people that are living in Houston and Dallas and all the cities that I initially wanted to live in. But at the end of the day, my goal is to pay back my student loan, to save money, to live somewhere where I feel safe and that I'm not, shelling out so much to just enjoy life. So this met all of that. We reviewed the contract with our like student center at school, and they said it was pretty boilerplate and normal. I reviewed it as well with like family friends and people from church who are also dentists, and they all were like, yeah, this is pretty normal. So I didn't really notice anything that was out of the norm. It felt like normal things. They talk about the implant stuff in there. They talk about your PTO. They talk about your daily guarantee, your benefits, pretty normal stuff, I think.
Awesome, for sure. Um, I think, yeah, I think that's a great place to end. Myself and Kim have put in our contact info into the chat. So if there's anybody that doesn't have it readily available, you can screenshot it, copy and paste it, do whatever you need to. I will also send out an email tomorrow with Kim's information. And then docs, if you don't mind, I'll share your information. If students want to reach out and have a question, they can definitely ask the two of you guys as well. And then that's kind of where we'll end. I did promise a raffle. So I have the 27 names of students that have logged in. I will go ahead and do the wheel of names after I sign off, because unfortunately I don't have two screens. And I will get that sent out this evening. So there will be three $100 gift card winners, and I will email you over a gift card, and I will let those individuals know that received those. So I very much appreciate everybody logging in. Like I said, reach out to Kim or I. We can do shadows. We can start the interview process. We can just talk about location or answer any questions you may have. But to the two doctors, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you were just in these students' shoes not too long ago. So we very much appreciate you guys. If you're ever back in Houston, come say hi. And we will chat soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye, guys. Thanks, girls.